Hey, how's it going? Snoogin, snooch to the nooch, noich, 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 whatever suits you best. I'm here to help you find the top 5 best Kevin Smith movies to watch. And for everybody who's seen all of Kevin Smith's movies, you can argue about how I rank them. All right, honorable mention, Tusk. This is my favorite of the second tier Kevin Smith movies. It's not a great movie, but at the same time, if you've ever seen the movie where the guy turns the other guy into a walrus, you'll never forget it in your life. All right, so it's a good horror movie, but it's also got that weird kind of like funky 70s horror vibe to it where everything's sort of uneasy and menacing. I recommend it, it's cool. Number 5, Clerks II. The follow-up to the success of Clerks, it checks back in with Dante and Randall many years later and sees that they're working at a fast food place now, spoilers. But overall, from Kevin Smith's perspective, it shows the evolution of him in his life, and he does a fine job of balancing like stupid 80s sex comedy antics that he loves to put in his movies with like his, genuine feelings and life lessons learned stuff. So he always walks that delicate line of being like real poetic and just being like just a foul-mouthed oaf. Number 4, Mallrats. It's like somebody went to him and said, hey, that movie you made in black and white was cute and all, but we want to do the same thing in color with a bigger budget and taking place, in a bigger setting. So they were like, okay, let's try Mallrats. So instead of just a, a mini mall, a strip mall with like 2 or 3 stores, this is, the mall. So obviously that's the next progression. Jason Lee is memorable as Brody. He influenced a generation with his, Chevy Chase, smart alecky antics. But overall, this is one of Smith's funnier, more memorable movies. And, I definitely recommend you check this one out for sure. Number 3, Clerks, the movie that put Kevin Smith on the map. It's a great romantic comedy for men, but it also does a fine job of, it puts a spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down. So it has all these life lessons about not being such a weaselly jerk about who you're with and always trying to like upgrade. And instead it talks about like learning to appreciate and love people. And it also has this cool story about, friendship and whatever, but then it's also a bunch of fart and dick jokes too. So it's a reason it's a classic and memorable, but it is black and white and some people will whine about that. 2, An Evening with Kevin Smith. This was kind of a revelation. After he'd done a few movies, he decided, well, I'm just going to go on stage and start telling the stories of, my filmmaking adventures, but then include a bunch of gossip in there because nobody cares about Kevin Smith. But the truth is his audience does, and people everywhere loved his gossip and his stories. You learn about what a weirdo the guy who wanted to make Superman is. You learn about Prince and how strange it is to meet Prince and, spend time with him and stuff. So he has all these, dishy behind the scenes gossip stories that are like stand-up comedy. This first one is the best of the series. I don't know, you really have to love this first one to move on to the others. But as you can see, this one is kind of better than his average work. He as a man is more interesting often than the work he produces. And that shows in this, story and most of his commentaries. Number 1, Chasing Amy. This, I think, is the pinnacle of what Smith does. It's the perfect combination of dick and fart jokes with actual sensitive thought and, touches of humanity and growing life lessons. And, it really makes you think about how judgmental you are of your partner and et cetera, all the things that go into a relationship. But it's done, it looks very 90s indie, which is kind of its charm, but it does it without being the grainy black and white like Clerks. So it maintains that true to life aesthetic that Smith is good for. He works in all his usual cast of characters. This is the movie that kind of made Ben Affleck. It's one of them. Joey Lauren Adams kind of got a big break from this movie as well. She's fantastic in it. Once again, Jason Lee steals the show. So hard to say that this isn't the pinnacle Smith. It's right up there ahead of Clerks. The only reason maybe I pick it is because it's slightly more mature and it's not in black and white. So, okay, so there you go. There's the top 5 best Kevin Smith movies you need to check out. If you want to watch me watch Clerks, you go ahead and check that out right here. Otherwise, you have yourself a snooch to the nooch day. Snoogans. I don't know what any of that means.